Put it in your Assistant Secretary's statement that you said, to reiterate, we seek competition, not conflict. Can you define conflict for me?
Well, yes, sir. What we're referring to there is we welcome competition. We think that's healthy. That this is what we do as Americans. What we don't want to see is some kind of a miscalculation that veers into conflict, potentially military conflict. That is what we're seeking to avoid, and we're trying to make clear competition does not equal conflict.
No, understood. So your definition of conflict, though, is from the kinetic element. It is not discussing the economic, resource, cyber, and other types of malign activities that the PRC and the CCP are engaged in currently. As we know, that China is continuing their Road and Belt Initiative. They have a geopolitical alignment between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, whereby they are already seeking to utilize Ukraine as a Eurasian expansion. They're taking over Mariupol and the waterways, Africa, Oceania, recreating the maritime Silk Route in an attempt to try and cut off Western Hemisphere supply chain, while simultaneously controlling the ports, as we talked about, and the waterways, as Ms. Salazar discussed in Panama, which would essentially cut off all of our supply chain. Now, in addition to this, we also know that they are continuing to buy in the billions, farmlands and other areas around our military bases, and we continue to see where they're utilizing billions of dollars in intellectual property theft from American businesses. They are continuing to try and utilize surveillance and espionage techniques. So do you not determine that that is, in fact, conflict?
Congressman, I would say that we share your concerns over many of the activities that you.
But the question is do you consider that conflict?
The way that we have used conflict in the way that I've defined it a moment ago is
do you consider that to
kinetic.
be conflict, or do you consider that to be in any way a conflict from them to us?
What I consider that to be are unacceptable steps that pose a threat to our national security and other interests to which we are responding proactively on a daily basis.
Understood. And just to stay on the topic of unacceptable, you did talk about the egregious and unacceptable human rights abuses that are across China. We know exactly what they're doing with the human rights abuses against the Uyghur. We know that they are illegally doing organ harvesting, that they have denied Hong Kong of the one country, two system framework, that they are in conjunction with Iran and Russia from an economic support perspective. Why is it that you don't view decoupling an adversarial nation that is out to try to eliminate the U.S. dollar from the global currency and remove us from being a superpower? Why would you not advise that that's good to decouple?
Well, Congressman, again, as I hope we've made clear here today, excuse me, we have deep concerns across a whole range of activities, including several of which that you have outlined, and we are responding to them forcefully. But our policy is not to pursue decoupling. Our policy is to respond to those and counter those behaviors in the way that we think best serves American national interests.
Do we, as America, determine that Iran, we labeled them as a state sponsor of terrorism? Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
So what would you call then the nation who actually helps to support and fund in a proxy utilization? What would that country then be? Would that not also be a state sponsor of terrorism?
Again, Congressman, I've tried to outline here that where we have concerns with Chinese behavior and actions, we've taken resolute steps
Sir, I'm just asking a simple question, which is that we already have defined that Iran is a state sponsor of terror. If another nation is in conjunction supporting that state sponsor of terror, does that not then also lean to them doing the same?
I'll just say, Congressman, we'll respond to the actions of China that are of concern to us, and we'll do it in a way that supports our national interests.
No, that's understood. And again, our national interest seems to be on the ideas of what is economically beneficial. Can I ask a question to you, Mr. Schiffer? How much money does USAID invest in China?
We don't invest any money in China.
No programs, no projects that are being done in China at a taxpayer's expense?
There are programs that we undertake to support Tibetans and others who are victims of China's oppression and human rights violations.
So we will allocate and spend money to help the people in China who China will not help, but in return we'll also continue to give hundreds of billions of dollars in trade to China while they sponsor countries like Iran, who we have noted as a state sponsor of terror, or Russia, who is engaged in war in Ukraine, but yet we still won't determine that they are a nation which we are in conflict with. We won't decouple, we won't stop and actually hold them accountable, noting that they're an adversary. Is that my understanding of everyone's testimony right now?
Well, in terms of the programs that we support, and be happy to talk to you more about them in a different setting, we believe that it's important for the United States to stand up to oppressed people who are victims of human rights violation, cultural genocide, and more.
And I completely agree with that. I think we should always be trying to help those who are engaged in human rights abuses or denials. One question, do you believe that TikTok is a threat or a national security issue? And this is for everyone on the panel.
Congressman, on your previous question, I would just say, obviously, we're taking a range of resolute steps that we've outlined here today to advance our national interests and push back on concerning Chinese behavior. On TikTok, I think you're aware that we've banned the use of TikTok on all U.S. government devices. My understanding is CFIUS is looking at a number of steps related to TikTok, but I think it would be safer to refer questions to Treasury and the CFIUS process regarding those details.
I would also say TikTok is a threat, and like Secretary Crittenbrink just said, CFIUS is adjudicating that process right now.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. With that, I will recognize Mr.